G'day guys, what's cracking? It's Ralph here, and have you heard that GoPro are taking it to DJI, the gimbal kings, to see if they can overthrow them when it comes to the Pocket? The what? You remember this? The DJI Pocket. There's also a number 2. I don't have a number 2. This is just the number 1, but it's pretty similar to the number 2. And GoPro was saying, well, we think we can overthrow them. This isn't classed as an action camera, and GoPro do action cameras. The reason it isn't, though, is because this little accessory on top is too fragile. Have GoPro gotten ahead, and can they take it to DJI? It is rumored that they will have a modular design. So this camera will, for example, have the top of it, and then that can fit into a grip handle that you might hold that hopefully is a bit bigger than this, but not as dainty, but not massive, and has a bigger screen. The screen is very tiny on the Pocket. So it has a bigger screen. It'll have a single button, an indicator light, and a touch screen. So it's going to be really, really simple. And my hope is that the handle that it slots into will have other functionalities like great audio options and great scrolling options should you want manual control over where the camera heads. It's going to be a 3-axis gimbal, but it's going to be controlled not all from here, but some from in here too. And that will mean that this can be more rugged, can endure more impact. It's low profile and protecting the gimbal to reduce the risk of damage. They say that with this setup, it would give a great appearance of a 2-axis gimbal, but may provide advantages over rivals because of all the other gimbals are exposed. And they're also rumoring that it can actually shut in, so when you turn it off, it actually compacts to save you having it knocked off in your bag. It hasn't happened to me, but gee, I get concerned sometimes that little thing on top might just pop right off. The patent designs that have come out say it has a keyed connector, which basically means that little camera can plug into a grip, can plug into an FPV drone or another mount. They might have an external car mount or vehicle mount that you could plug it into and still have gimbal control over the camera as it sits out there outside of what would otherwise be out of your control. That way you can get a nice steady straight shot as opposed to the bang angle that your GoPro can currently sit on when you attach it to the outside of your car. Also, the benefit of this modular design means you can have swappable batteries. You can put batteries in and you can put SD cards in and out of the camera or the extension. So it's unclear about where that is going to land, but it allows for those possibilities. It's able to do selfie mode as well as highlight tagging, and highlight tagging is when something cool happens that you're videoing and you press a button to highlight tag it so you can easily find where that is when you go back to it. It's really handy. And obviously selfie mode enables the camera to spin round so you can vlog on it, can talk to your camera through that way. It's essential. I think what GoPro are building is a really rugged vlogger's camera, and to do that they've got to nail the audio. Got to have good audio options, GoPro. Good audio options. Come on. Let's talk about specs. It's very, very thin on the ground when it comes to specs. But it'd be great if this camera could shoot 4K at 240 frames a second. And then obviously you've got 2.7 and 1080p and 720 I wouldn't even worry about. I just start in that range. And 240 frames, you could go 120 and then like 160 and 30 and 24. That'd be really handy. I don't think it needs to take stills. Like, you could just grab a still off the video footage if you really wanted to. I don't think it needs to do that. I think 240 frames a second would give you massive versatility in the field. I don't know if you can fit all that tech into such a tiny camera, but it means that when you're out and about, when you're shooting and something happens, if you can chuck it on 240 frames, you can get a super slow-mo capture of that, and you don't feel hard done by. You don't have to think about other cameras or that. It just enables you to get the job done when you see something in situ. The idea is that this is in your pocket, like it's meant to be pocket, right? Like it's meant to be handy. It's meant to be handy, just there, pull it out, ready to go. People aren't expecting you to change the world with this camera. However, you could take phenomenal footage. I would love to see a programmable time-lapse or hyperlapse that enables you to program the gimbal where it's going to be throughout the time-lapse. So DJI have done this with their Ronin gimbals, and it's quite remarkable. I've got a video where I talk about this and show you how it works. I'll put that link at the end. But to be able to do that, and so you're taking a time-lapse and you say, okay, at minute 1 I want it pointed here, and at minute 2 I want it pointed here, and at minute 3 I want it pointed there, using the touch screen and just locking it as you go through, that would be wonderful and make for some really creative stuff that you could do while you're even away from the camera. And if you were able to somehow make it more low light compatible, so perhaps have a high ISO opportunity or use as big a sensor as you can in that, it would enable some really cool astro stuff. Because you wouldn't normally do astro stuff with this, you wouldn't think to do astro with it. But if you can track, and your gimbal can track something like the Milky Way, that would be really creative, wouldn't it? Now, if GoPro can pull this off, this mechanical stabilization with the gimbal, they will also be able to add Hypersmooth to it, which will give you the smoothest footage that has ever been created. It'd be insane, wouldn't it? Like Hypersmooth 2.0 stuck on a mechanical 3-axis gimbal. Like, wow. Stabilization would be moving to new heights. You could run full tilt with it like this, I dare say, and get still like framed, solid image. And people would be like, how on earth did you do that? And you're like, I just grabbed my GoPro Pocket. I wonder what you're going to call it. You're going to call it GoPro Pocket? I mean, it's a pocket because it fits in your pocket, but would you call it like a GoPro Vlogger's Delight? The GoPro Handle. Oh, that might work. The GoPro Handy? Yeah, the GoPro Handy. That'd be cool. All right, that's my pitch. GoPro, when you watch this, GoPro Handy. And you can just like RM photography underneath, like just a little copyright. You can use it if you want. I won't be upset. Be quite honoured. It feels like GoPro are having another crack after the failing of the GoPro Karma grip. You remember that? It looked like this. It was basically a gimbal for your action camera, and it's a brilliant idea. I love it. But the reason I never got into it was because your action camera, it just works by itself. I thought about it a long time, but if you stick a GoPro on a gimbal, why don't you just buy a different setup that does a whole bunch of other things much easier? It's going to be amazing tracking functionality. They actually say we want it to track a user based on position data from a beacon module and or based on computer vision tracking of the user in images from the image sensor. You could just hold it still and the camera would fully rotate all the way around. And I wonder if the new GoPro Handy could actually spin all the way around. See, the DJI Pocket stops there. I don't know what the 2 does, but if it just span around, you could track someone. You could just hold it, and it would just track them forever. Bit stalkerish, bit spooky, isn't it? It's exciting, don't you think, that GoPro are actually positioning themselves to, instead of have one product that suits 75% of people's needs, they're actually diversifying into multiple products with the hope of meeting 100% of people's needs, depending on what their needs are. Now, sure, for some of us that might mean buying 2 cameras that seem very similar but achieve different things. But I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, in branching out, using the technology and the learnings that they've acquired over the last number of years and putting them into new products to keep the flavor coming, to push the bounds of creativity and to enable us to do what hasn't been done before. So what would you like the GoPro Handy to have included? What name would you give it? What functions are super important? Get your creative thinking caps on and let's get into it. If you want to join the channel, join me on like a more intimate basis, you can do that by joining down below. That would be amazing. If you just want to shout me a coffee because you love my content, you're like, yeah, let's do a coffee, Ralph. Just shout me a coffee. You can do that just down below. I love a coffee. Just means the world when that pops up. Hasn't happened for a few months. So if you want to remedy that, that'd be wonderful. Please subscribe. Give us a like. Check out the other videos I've done. I'll put a link to the playlist at the end of this video in like 2 seconds. See ya.